The neighborhood where I live is not really big. The houses are small and most people know each other. The only striking feature of this place was, well, its lake, which is now neglected and full of dirty water. That's the place I like the most. There, I could spend time alone without anyone bothering me. And that's what I did for most of my teenage years, until what I'm about to share here. This took place 10 years ago. I remember it perfectly because it was a very melancholic winter for me. I had failed most of my subjects, and I was just watching friends enjoy their vacations while I had to study books that should have been forgotten somewhere in my house by now. This feeling of failure led me to spend more time at the lake, the only place where I could be away from home, away from the judging eyes of my family. One particular day, the stress was too much for me, and I simply stopped doing my homework and I left the house with a backpack full of snacks, and I went straight to the lake. It was about 5 p.m. when I arrived, and I just sat down next to a tree and ate what I had in my backpack and got more and more lost in my thoughts until I just fell asleep. I woke up about 3 hours later in complete darkness and only hearing insects and the flow of water. When I got up to return home, I took a small stone and threw it into the lake. The stone bounced as soon as it hit the water, and a kind of dark spot began to swim in circles. It seemed desperate and disoriented. My curiosity made me approach the side of the lake. I knelt down and moved my body closer to the water flow to get a better look, trying to distinguish what that black spot was. It was at that moment when the thing emerged half of its body out of the water, and I became completely astonished. In front of me was a fish of common size, but its face was that of a woman. The skin on her face was almost gray, her eyes were yellow, and her teeth were missing. That thing was just standing there, looking me in the eyes while I was completely paralyzed. It started to babble something, as if it was trying to say something, but I only heard gurgling sounds and my own heavy and worried breathing. I ran out of that place as fast as I could. I ran and ran and ran without looking back until I got home. A few weeks went by and I could not get that horrible experience out of my head. A huge need inside me pushed me to go back, but I knew that doing it alone would be a mistake. I called one of my closest friends, and although he didn't believe me, he agreed to accompany me to the lake at midnight. There we were, both of us, sitting near the place of that horrible event, waiting for something impossible that surely could be part of my imagination, but that memory did not stop tormenting me. There was something in the face of that fish that reminded me of something, and that feeling was consuming me. Hours passed and nothing happened, so my friend took a mocking and almost angry attitude. He was making fun of me and complaining to me for wasting his time. I really didn't know what to say. But at a certain moment, he approached the riverbank, analyzing the situation in detail. His gaze was lost. And suddenly, between stammering, he simply said, "There's something in the water." What in the world? I quickly moved to his side, expecting to meet that horrible creature again, but it wasn't that. In the water were 3 severed fingers floating on the shore of the lake. "There's more. We have to call the police," said my friend, pointing to the rest of the floating hand in the river. The more we inspected the area, the more body parts we found. Sitting in complete shock as we waited for the police, I noticed a dark mass a few meters away from me. As I approached to see what it was, I could tell that it was a fish out of the river. The fish with the face of a woman. It was never a fish with a woman's face. It simply had taken the face of a woman. A woman that it had perhaps drowned while she was trying to get out of the water. I finally understood everything as I listened to the police sirens. That face looked so familiar to me for one simple reason. It was the girl who had disappeared from the town a few weeks ago.